Some of you are holding on to things that are suffocating your future. You're gripping memories, people, jobs, and seasons that have already expired. And here's the truth. You cannot step into the new if you're still married to the old. Let it go. Because God is not in what was, He's in what is next. 7K Finance, everything has a season, and every season has an expiration date. Everything has a season, and every season has an expiration date. In life, one of the greatest signs of maturity is learning to discern when a season has served its purpose. You can't wear summer clothes in winter and expect to be warm. You can't plant seeds in a frozen field and expect a harvest. Yet so many people try to hold on to moments, relationships, jobs, and versions of themselves that have clearly expired, hoping to revive what was never meant to be permanent. Look at your own life. Have you ever stayed in a job that no longer challenged you? You knew you weren't growing. You woke up dreading the morning, but you kept showing up. Not because of passion, not because of purpose, but because of fear. Fear of change, fear of the unknown. You see, familiarity is a drug. It convinces us that comfort is safety, even when comfort is killing our potential. Some of you are watering dead plants. You're putting energy, time, and resources into situations that cannot produce fruit anymore. And here's the truth. Not every closed door is a curse. Some are divine protection. Some of you needed that rejection. You needed that no. You needed that person to walk away. Because as long as you were comfortable, you would have never moved. As long as things felt familiar, you wouldn't dare stretch your wings. Sometimes losing something is exactly what had to happen for you to discover who you really are. Let me say this to someone listening. Just because something once blessed you doesn't mean it's meant to stay with you forever. Seasons change. Trees don't apologize when they shed their leaves. They know it's part of the process. That same tree that looks empty in winter will bloom again in spring. But it must go through the shedding, and so must you. Every season has a purpose, but no season is meant to be eternal. Remember high school? There was a time you thought those friendships were forever. You thought those hallway moments were the pinnacle of your life. Then graduation came. People moved. Priorities shifted. The same people who once felt like family now feel like strangers. And it's not because something went wrong. It's because the season ended. That chapter of your life closed so a new one could begin. But the danger is trying to carry yesterday's mindset into today's opportunity. When you don't know the expiration date of a season, you risk poisoning your present with the past. Imagine drinking expired milk because you're too emotionally attached to throw it out. That's what some of us are doing with expired dreams, expired relationships, expired ideas of who we were supposed to be. You're not stuck. You're just attached to what no longer serves you. There are people praying for elevation while still clutching expired seasons like trophies. You want the next level, but you're still trying to fit it into the mold of the previous one. That's not how growth works. To go somewhere new, you have to let go of what is old. Not because it was bad, not because it wasn't real, but because its time is up. Growth is not just about adding more. It's about releasing what no longer fits. You don't build a skyscraper on the foundation of a shack. The old must go so the new can come. And I get it, letting go is hard, especially when you've invested time, love, energy, and effort. But you have to understand this time spent is not a reason to stay. Don't stay just because it's been a long time. Long time doesn't equal right time. You were not created to stay stuck in a cycle just because it's predictable. You were made to evolve, to stretch, to go from season to season, glory to glory, level to level. But every level requires a letting go. And the longer you stay in a season that's expired, the more you delay the season that's waiting. Think about a butterfly. Before it can fly, it must leave the cocoon. The cocoon isn't bad. The cocoon is necessary, but the cocoon was never meant to be permanent. The moment the butterfly is ready to fly, the cocoon becomes a prison. That's how life works. What once protected you will soon begin to confine you unless you recognize the expiration date. You can honor a season without staying in it. You can appreciate the role it played without pretending it still fits. Life is not loyal to your comfort zone. It is loyal to your calling, and calling requires courage. The truth is, some of you are still loyal to old versions of yourself. You've grown, but you won't admit it. You've changed, but you're pretending to be who they used to know. You've outgrown certain conversations, but you keep shrinking so other people don't feel uncomfortable. But here's the wake-up call. The only thing worse than outgrowing a season is pretending you haven't. You can't fit destiny into comfort. You can't walk in your future holding on to a past that's begging to be released. Yes, it served you. Yes, it shaped you. But now it's time to move because the clock has expired, the page has turned, the season has shifted. And if you keep living like it hasn't, you'll miss the next thing that was meant to change your life. What you hold on to can become the very thing that holds you back. What you hold on to can become the very thing that holds you back. Think about that for a second. Some of us are stuck not because we don't have potential, not because opportunities don't exist, not because doors aren't opening, but because we are holding on too tightly to things that no longer have a place in our future. You're not tied down by your past, You're tied down by your attachment to it. And that attachment has become an invisible anchor in your life. Picture someone swimming across a river, determined to reach the other side. But they're holding a heavy suitcase. It's filled with memories, old titles, former successes, even regrets. And every stroke becomes harder. Every moment feels heavier, not because they're weak, but because they refuse to let go. Eventually, they begin to sink, not because they can't swim, because of what they refuse to release. That's how many people are living right now. We say we want change, but we're afraid to let go of what's familiar. We pray for next level elevation, but we refuse to detach from our comfort. And here's the irony: what feels safe is often the very thing suffocating your growth. Look at your own life. Look closely. Are there habits, relationships, identities, or routines that once helped you survive, but are now stopping you from thriving? Maybe you're still living by rules someone else gave you. Maybe you're holding on to a title that fed your ego but starved your spirit. Maybe you're clinging to a version of yourself that no longer exists just because it once brought you applause. But hear this loud and clear: there is a difference between loyalty and bondage. Some people stay stuck in toxic situations and call it being faithful. They stay in draining relationships, dead-end jobs, outdated mindsets, and they justify it with duty or fear. I can't leave now, I've come too far. But distance traveled is not an excuse for destination delayed. Just because you invested years in something doesn't mean it deserves your future. You've got to know when something has stopped adding value to your vision. Let's make it practical. Maybe you're in a job that pays well, but it drains the life out of you. Every morning feels like a slow death. You have ideas, you have dreams, you have something burning inside of you, but you're afraid to leave because you don't want to lose the paycheck, the title, the sense of security. But deep down, you know staying is costing you more than leaving ever would. Or maybe it's a friendship that used to be healthy, but now it's rooted in gossip, comparison, and small talk that leads nowhere. Every time you leave a conversation, you feel drained. But you stay connected out of history, out of fear that you'll be alone, not realizing that sometimes you have to let go of the familiar to find your tribe. You can't find people who speak to your future if you're only entertaining people who speak to your past. Some of the hardest chains to break are the ones we've convinced ourselves are sentimental. We hold on to old wounds, old opinions, old betrayals, believing that by doing so, we're protecting ourselves. But what if the thing you're holding on to for protection is actually your prison? What if the anger you've kept for years is now poisoning your peace? What if the grudge you hold has built a wall around your heart, blocking new joy, new love, new opportunities? It's time to stop asking, why am I stuck? And start asking, what am I afraid to release? Release the image, release the mask, release the pressure to be who they expect you to be. You don't owe you anything. The only thing you owe yourself is truth. The truth that says, I've changed, I've grown, and I refuse to be handcuffed to a life that no longer reflects who I've become. Think about how many dreams never took flight because someone was too afraid to let go. Think about the businesses that never launched, the books that never got written, the visions that never came to life, not because the person lacked talent, but because they were weighed down by what they were afraid to lose. That fear, that attachment, that need for approval, it builds invisible walls around potential. You cannot hold on to what is killing you and expect to live. Letting go isn't weakness. Letting go is power. It takes strength to release something that once gave you comfort. It takes courage to walk away from something you outgrew. But the price of your future is the willingness to surrender what no longer fits. And here's the reality: your hands must be empty to receive something new. So many people walk through life with closed fists, holding tight to broken relationships, expired plans, old failures, old glories. But your destiny is calling you to open your hands, to unclench your grip, because what you refuse to let go of will become the very thing that keeps you from rising. You don't climb by carrying everything. You climb by letting go of what weighs you down. And sometimes the weight isn't outside of you. Sometimes the weight is your own attachment to who you used to be. Movement requires release. You can't steer a parked car. Movement requires release. You can't steer a parked car. You can't direct something that isn't in motion. That's a universal principle. No matter how well built the car is, no matter how advanced the GPS, no matter how clear the destination is in your mind, if the car is still in park, the steering wheel does nothing. You can sit behind the wheel for hours, pray over it, speak affirmations over it, plan the route in your mind, but until you put the car in drive, you will never move forward. That's how life works. Some people are asking for divine direction while sitting in neutral. They're waiting for a sign, waiting for certainty, waiting for conditions to be perfect while doing absolutely nothing. Let me make it real. There are people who've been talking about starting that business for 5 years. They've read the books, listened to the podcasts, saved motivational quotes on their phone. They've done everything except move. They're waiting for capital, waiting for partners, waiting for a sign from heaven. But what if the sign is already inside you? What if your desire to move is the confirmation you need to start? Movement doesn't begin when things make sense. Movement begins when you trust that clarity comes through motion, not before it. There's a powerful example from daily life. Think of using a navigation app on your phone. The GPS doesn't give you turn-by-turn instructions while you're still sitting in your driveway. It waits for you to start moving. Only then does it begin to guide you. You have to be in motion for it to calculate the best route. It will even rear out if you take a wrong turn. But it cannot do anything if you don't go. In the same way, your destiny is voice activated by movement. Life's instructions often show up only after you take the first step. Some people say, I'm waiting on God, but the truth is God is waiting on you. He's waiting for you to leave that toxic environment. He's waiting for you to break out of routine. He's waiting for you to act on that idea. We keep looking up, waiting for a voice to shout from the sky, but often the whisper is inside your own soul. It's the unrest, the urge, the dissatisfaction, the desire to do something. That's not coincidence. That's divine agitation. You're not stuck because God has paused your story. You're stuck because your car is still in park. You've got dreams in your heart, but dreams don't move themselves. They require action. They require decisions. They require sacrifice. A dream without action is just a fantasy. You don't need another prophecy. You need a plan. You don't need another confirmation. You need courage. It's time to release fear, release perfectionism, release procrastination, and move. Sometimes the very reason you don't feel direction is because you haven't risked anything yet. You're asking for clarity without commitment. But in life, motion unlocks momentum. You take a step, and then you see the next one. You build the plane while flying it. And while that may sound scary, it's often how purpose reveals itself. Let's talk about fear. Fear is the #1 reason people stay in park. They're afraid of making a mistake, afraid of failing, afraid of looking foolish, so they do nothing. But the real danger isn't failure, it's stagnation. Because over time, stagnation becomes suffocation. You weren't built to stay still. You were born to progress. There's a difference between waiting with wisdom and staying stuck out of fear. Fear disguises itself as logic. Knows not the right time. I'm not ready yet. What if I fail? But deep down, what you're really afraid of is being exposed to the unknown. Here's a powerful truth. You don't have to know the whole path to take the first step. Imagine a hallway full of motion sensor lights. You don't get to see the whole hallway lit up when you begin. But with every step forward, another light turns on, step by step. That's how purpose works. Movement activates direction. Think about a boat in the middle of the ocean. A rudder can't turn a boat that isn't moving. The water must be flowing beneath it. Only then can you adjust the course. In life, many people ask for guidance while sitting still, hoping someone will drag them to their destiny. But nobody gets dragged into greatness. You must walk into it. Even if you limp, even if you're uncertain, even if you're scared. The requirement is not perfection. Daily life gives us small, subtle examples of this every day. Think about trying to find a new job. You can't just wish for it. You have to update your resume, send applications, reach out to people, schedule interviews. Only then does momentum build. Or maybe you're trying to heal emotionally. Healing doesn't come from just thinking about being healed. It comes from action, therapy, journaling, boundaries, rest. Even the decision to take care of yourself is a movement. The breakthrough is not in the waiting, it's in the moving. You don't need to have the entire staircase figured out. Just find the courage to step on the first one. Even a small move, starting the research, making the phone call, writing the first paragraph, can shift everything. Because once you're in motion, you give life something to work with. Once you're in motion, momentum becomes your partner. Once you're in motion, the doors that were invisible before suddenly start to appear. And all it takes is that first shift from park to drive. Discomfort is a sign that growth is calling. Discomfort is a sign that growth is calling. That uneasiness you feel, that sense that something isn't quite right, even though everything on the surface looks okay. That's not random. That's not weakness. That's your soul signaling that you've outgrown something. That's the whisper inside of you saying, there's more. And too often, we ignore that whisper. We numb it with distractions. We bury it under responsibility. We label it as anxiety, when in truth, it's evolution knocking on the door of your comfort zone. You see, growth doesn't come gift wrapped in convenience. It shows up dressed as discomfort. It shows up in that restlessness you feel when your life no longer matches your vision. It shows up when the job that once excited you now drains you. When the people you used to laugh with suddenly feel like strangers. When the routines that once kept you grounded now feel like cages. That's not failure. That's the growing pains of transformation. Take a seed, for example. When it's planted, it's buried in darkness. The soil feels suffocating. The pressure from above is immense. But that discomfort is the exact condition required for it to break open and grow. No seed becomes a tree without tension, and no person becomes who they're meant to be without discomfort. Your stretching is not your breaking point, it's your becoming point. Think about your own life. When were the moments you changed the most? Was it when everything was easy, predictable, and calm? Or was it when life pushed you, challenged you, pressed you into a corner where you had to choose between comfort and calling? Growth begins when comfort ends. That tight feeling in your chest on Monday mornings, that's not just stress, it's your inner self warning you, you were made for more than this. That frustration that rises when you see others living boldly while you play it safe, that's your untapped potential reminding you it still exists. Discomfort isn't something to run from, it's something to listen to. But here's the problem: most people resist discomfort because they confuse it with danger. The brain is wired for survival, not success. So when change shows up, your instinct is to protect what's familiar, even if it's painful. The job that drains you still pays the bills. The relationship that limits you still feels safe. The environment that stunts your growth is still predictable. But understand this: familiarity is not the same as fulfillment. You don't grow in environments that only comfort you. You grow in spaces that challenge you. Imagine wearing the same shoes for 10 years. At first, they fit perfectly. They were made for you. But over time, your feet grow, your stride changes, and those once perfect shoes start to blister your skin. Staying in them too long becomes painful. Not because the shoes are bad, but because they no longer fit your growth. That's how life works. Discomfort is the blister that tells you it's time to step into something bigger. We've been taught to chase peace, but we haven't been taught that sometimes peace is disguised as progress. And progress feels messy, it feels awkward, it feels uncertain, but nothing extraordinary ever comes wrapped in predictability. Discomfort is the hallway between who you were and who you're becoming. It's the space between old definitions and new dimensions. And if you run from that space, you run from your next level. Think about a caterpillar. It goes into the cocoon completely unaware of what's coming. Inside that space, everything it was begins to dissolve. It's uncomfortable, it's a breakdown. But inside that chaos, something divine is forming: wings, not legs, not longer antenna, wings. Transformation is never neat, it's painful, it's confusing, but it always produces freedom on the other side. Some of you are experiencing the pressure of a cocoon season right now. You feel stuck, you feel lost. But the truth is, you're not breaking down, you're breaking through. The discomfort you feel isn't proof that something's wrong, it's proof that something's waking up. And the danger is in misinterpreting that pressure as punishment when it's actually preparation. Discomfort will demand decisions from you. It will force you to choose between settling and soaring, between what's easy and what's essential. It will ask you, are you willing to let go of who you were in order to step into who you were always meant to be? That's the real question. Can you walk away from the familiar in pursuit of the extraordinary? Can you allow yourself to feel the friction of change without running back to what feels easy? Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they returned to comfort too soon. The moment it got uncomfortable, they turned around. But champions are born in the middle of chaos. They're forged in pressure. They're molded in discomfort. Growth doesn't ask for permission. It shows up unannounced, it disrupts your routine, it challenges your identity, and it dares you to rise. Every great leader, innovator, trailblazer, you name it, they were all shaped by a moment of discomfort. A season when life said, this is not where your story ends. And they listened, they leaned in, they embraced the shaking. And from that pressure came power. So the next time discomfort shows up, don't curse it, don't numb it, don't run from it, pay attention. That feeling might just be your soul saying, it's time to grow again. You're not being abandoned. You're being repositioned. You're not being abandoned. You're being repositioned. It may feel like abandonment. It may look like rejection. It may sound like silence. But behind the scenes, something divine is at work. Life has a way of moving things, shifting things, shaking things. Especially when you've become too comfortable in a place you've outgrown. You think you've been left behind. But what's really happening is alignment. You're not being punished. You're being positioned for something bigger, something deeper, something more in line with who you are becoming. Look at your life. Think about the people who left, the doors that closed, the opportunities that vanished without warning. At the time, it felt like the ground was giving way. You questioned your worth. You doubted your direction. You wondered if you did something wrong. But what if that disconnection wasn't rejection? It was redirection. What if the ending you cried over was the beginning your future was waiting for? Sometimes what feels like abandonment is really protection in disguise. There are places you prayed to stay that were never meant to hold your destiny. There are people you begged to keep who were not equipped to carry your future. There are roles you clung to that served their season, but were never supposed to last forever. And when those things fall apart, you grieve, you panic. But life is not throwing you away, it's throwing you forward. You're being repositioned. Think of a chessboard. Every move is intentional. The king doesn't panic when the pawn is removed. The queen doesn't cry when the knight is shifted. Each piece has a strategic purpose. And sometimes being pulled back is part of setting you up for the ultimate move. A repositioning might mean retreating for a moment, stepping out of sight, being overlooked, so that when your time comes, You're exactly where you need to be, fully prepared, fully aligned, fully ready. There's a story happening that's bigger than your current scene. Imagine someone walking into a movie at the 45-minute mark and judging the entire plot based on one painful scene. They'd assume the main character was defeated. But the audience who's been there since the beginning knows this is the turning point. This is the moment before the rise. This is where the story gets good. Don't mistake the middle of your process for the end of your purpose. Let's make it practical. Maybe you lost a job, one that you thought was your dream position. You gave everything to it, your time, your energy, your loyalty, and now it's gone. It feels like you've been tossed aside. But what if that job was never your destination? What if it was just a training ground for the empire you're about to build? Sometimes the loss is the lesson that frees you to finally become the person you've been suppressing. Or maybe you're going through a breakup. Someone walked away, maybe without explanation, and you're left wondering, was I not enough? But that heartbreak might be the very thing that shakes you free from settling. You were never created to shrink yourself to fit someone else's comfort. You were made to evolve, to expand, to attract someone who can meet you where you're headed, not where you used to be. Repositioning is rarely comfortable, but it's always necessary. The eagle, when it builds a nest, makes it soft and warm for its young. But when it's time for the eaglets to fly, the mother begins to remove the feathers, the comfort, the padding, until the nest becomes uncomfortable. Why? Because if it stayed soft, the eaglets would never leave. They'd never stretch their wings. They'd never discover the sky that's been calling them all along. Sometimes life makes the nest uncomfortable so you can discover your wings. You are not being left behind. You are being launched. You're being moved from where it's safe to where it's strategic, from where it's common to where it's called, from where it's familiar to where it's fruitful. But that shift doesn't always come with explanation. It comes with disruption. It comes with closed doors. It comes with silence that tests your faith. And that's when you must remember, you're not forsaken. You're being formed. Some rooms are too small for your voice. Some circles are too limited for your vision. Some roles are too tight for your gift. And so life moves you unexpectedly, sometimes violently, but always purposefully. You weren't created to stay in one place. Stagnation is the enemy of significance. If life didn't move you, you'd stay where it's safe and miss where it's sacred. Think of a GPS. When you miss a turn, it doesn't scream at you. It simply says, recalculating. It doesn't cancel the destination. It just redirects the route. You're still headed where you're meant to go. But now you're taking a path that's shaping you for the version of you that destination requires. It's the same with life. When things fall apart, the system doesn't shut down. It repositions you. The people who left were part of the chapter, not the whole book. The opportunity that vanished was a step, not the summit. The silence you're hearing isn't abandonment. It's the quiet before revelation. You're being shifted, repositioned, prepared for something that requires a stronger, wiser, bolder version of you. The version that only pain, patience, and process can produce. The pain of letting go is the price of elevation. The pain of letting go is the price of elevation. Letting go hurts. There's no sugarcoating it. It pulls at your emotions, it tears at your sense of identity, and it shakes the very foundation of your comfort zone. But the truth that most people never want to confront is this elevation demands separation. You cannot rise while clinging to what's been weighing you down. You cannot fly while dragging yesterday's baggage into tomorrow's opportunity. The pain is real, but the pain has purpose. It's the price tag of going higher. Look around. The people who are truly progressing in life, the ones breaking barriers and living boldly, they've all had to let go of something. Not because they didn't love it, not because it didn't matter, but because holding on to it would have cost them their future. Some of the things we cling to most tightly are the very things that are quietly suffocating our destiny. That job you're scared to leave. That relationship you know isn't growing. That version of yourself you've outgrown but still protect out of fear. Growth never happens without release. Think about a hot air balloon. It doesn't rise because it's filled with hot air. It rises when the weights are thrown off. The sandbags, the tethers, everything that's been keeping it grounded. And the higher it wants to go, the more weight it has to drop. That's how life works. The dreams inside you are trying to take you somewhere, but your elevation is tied to your willingness to release the unnecessary. That includes people. Yes, even the people you love. Some people were only assigned to your history, not your destiny. They played a role in your past, but they're not equipped for your future. And as painful as it is, you've got to understand that proximity doesn't equal purpose. Just because they were in your life doesn't mean they were meant to stay. Growth will always expose who's really meant to grow with you. And sometimes the people you thought would be with you forever can't even handle the start of your transformation. There's nothing wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're just going in different directions. You're being elevated, and elevation always thins the crowd. Think about an athlete preparing for the Olympics. The sacrifices, the isolation, the pain of saying no to friends, fun, and comfort. But they know what's at stake. They're not training for the moment, they're training for the mountain. And that mountain won't be climbed with excess weight. It will only be conquered through focus, discipline, and the courage to let go of what no longer aligns with where they're going. Maybe you're in a season where life is pulling things away from you. Opportunities are drying up. Friendships are fading. Environments are becoming uncomfortable. It feels like things are falling apart. But in reality, things are falling into place because sometimes the things that leave your life are the very things blocking what's meant to come in. If your hands are full of what was, how can you receive what is? The pain of letting go is not punishment, it's preparation. Imagine a tree in autumn. The leaves turn color, they dry up, and they fall. It's not because the tree is dying. It's because the tree is preparing for the next season, for growth, for new life. The shedding must happen. It's a cycle. Nature understands what we often resist, that letting go is not loss. It's making space. And elevation is all about space. Making space for new ideas, new levels, new visions, and new capacity. Letting go of your old mindset might be the hardest thing you'll ever do. That inner voice that tells you you're not enough, that fear that reminds you of every past mistake, that doubt that paralyzes you when it's time to step out. But here's the reality. You can't walk into your new identity while dragging your old insecurities behind you. At some point, you have to stop rehearsing your pain and start releasing it. Maybe your pain came from betrayal, from failure, from years of disappointment. But you're still here, you're still breathing, and that means purpose still lives inside you. But it can't move forward while you're still chained to the past. You've got to decide that your future is worth more than your fear, that your purpose is worth more than your pain, that your calling is worth more than your comfort. Sometimes we say, I'm waiting on life to change, but truthfully, life is waiting on you to release, to surrender, to let go of what's no longer serving your vision. You'll never reach the next level by clinging to what made you feel safe in the last one. It's not about forgetting what you went through. It's about refusing to let it define you. Your pain may be part of your story, but it's not your ceiling, it's your soil. Some of the most powerful transformations come right after the most painful releases. You were created for more than surviving. You were designed for rising. And sometimes rising requires cutting ties with comfort. There's a reason why rockets drop parts mid-flight. They were essential for launch, but unnecessary for orbit. What got you here may not get you there. And letting go is how you make room for the there that's calling you. You've got to be bold enough to feel the pain and still move forward. To cry if you have to, but keep walking. Because the other side of pain is power. The other side of grief is growth. And the other side of release is rise. Every time you let go of something that no longer fits your future, you take one step closer to the life you were born to live. When you surrender, you align with divine momentum. When you surrender, you align with divine momentum. Surrender is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is not throwing your hands in the air in defeat. Surrender is strength wrapped in humility. It's the moment when your heart says, I don't need to control everything to trust that something greater is working. Surrender is where true power begins, not the power to force things to happen, but the power to flow with the current of purpose. When you surrender, you stop fighting against the tide and start riding the wave of divine alignment. So many people live stuck, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they refuse to release their grip on control. They're obsessed with the how, the when, and the why. But here's the truth. When you try to control everything, you limit what's possible. Your hands are so full trying to manage outcomes that you can't receive the breakthroughs trying to reach you. Surrender is the decision to open your hands, release the need for total understanding, and trust that forward is still the direction, even if the road looks unfamiliar. Think about a GPS. You plug in your destination and you start moving. But every once in a while, the voice tells you rerouting. You made a wrong turn. You hit unexpected traffic. Something shifted. But here's what the GPS never does. It never cancels the destination. It simply recalibrates the route. Surrender is when you learn to trust that even if the path changes, the promise remains. You're still headed toward purpose, even if the turns surprise you. Let's make it real. Imagine someone who loses their job after 10 years of loyalty. Their whole identity was tied to that title, that paycheck, that routine. And now it's gone. At first, panic sets in, fear knocks at the door. But then something strange happens. In the stillness, in the silence, a new idea begins to form. A business concept, a creative passion, a direction they never would have explored while trapped in the routine of survival. That's surrender. It's not just accepting what happened, it's leaning into it with trust that something better is unfolding. When you surrender, you activate divine momentum. That means things begin to move, not because you're pushing them, but because you're positioned in alignment. Doors begin to open that no resume could have unlocked. Conversations happen that you didn't orchestrate. People show up in your life who speak directly to your next step. That's what alignment looks like. And it doesn't happen through striving, it happens through surrendering. We've been taught that success comes from hustle, from grind, from non-stop movement. And yes, hard work matters, but hustle without harmony is how you burn out chasing a blessing that's not even yours. Surrender brings you back into rhythm with the life that was meant for you. Not the one you were forcing, but the one that flows. Imagine rowing a boat upstream. Your arms are burning, your mind is exhausted, and you look around and realize there's a current flowing in the other direction, a direction that leads to peace, to growth, to impact. But you've been so focused on forcing your own path, you didn't realize you've been rowing against your own purpose. Surrender is when you drop the oars and trust the flow. It doesn't mean you're passive, it means you're aware. You're sensitive to timing, you're open to redirection. There's a kind of peace that only comes from letting go. When you surrender, you stop carrying the pressure to make everything happen on your own. You stop measuring your worth by your productivity. You stop believing the lie that delay means denial. And in that space, something powerful happens. You begin to see. Clarity comes, your steps become lighter, your heart becomes freer. That's divine momentum. It's not fast, it's not flashy, but it's faithful. Every step aligned with purpose, every move soaked in wisdom. Sometimes surrender means being okay with not having all the answers. It means taking the first step even when the staircase is invisible. It means walking away from something good because you sense something greater. And yes, that's scary, but fear and faith often live in the same neighborhood. The difference is which one you choose to listen to. There are moments when life will bring you to your knees, not to break you, but to bring you into alignment, into a posture of surrender, because in that posture, you're open, you're teachable. You're no longer trying to be the source, you're connected to the source. And when that happens, momentum takes over. Things start to shift, not because of your strength, but because you're no longer in the way. Think of a surfer riding a wave. They don't create the wave, they don't control it, but they train, they prepare. And when the moment comes, they align themselves with the wave's energy. That surrender, it's not sitting still, it's being in sync. It's positioning yourself for the opportunities that were already moving toward you, but you couldn't see them because you were too busy trying to manufacture your own tide. You don't need to chase what's meant for you, you need to align with it. That alignment begins when you release the need to control every outcome and surrender to the timing, the wisdom, and the direction of something greater than you. The moment you realize that you don't have to fight for every victory, something inside you shifts. You stop looking at your life as a battlefield and you begin to see it as a canvas, waiting for you to make bold, confident strokes. Life is not about forcing every outcome. It's about trusting the process, believing in the unseen, and knowing that the universe is aligning itself in your favor. You are not created to live in constant struggle, fighting for what's already yours. Think about it. Every obstacle, every challenge, every setback is not an indication of your failure, but rather a sign of your growth. The struggles you face today are shaping you into the person who can handle tomorrow's opportunities. You were never meant to shrink in the face of adversity. You were meant to rise. The best view comes after the hardest climb. But it's only through surrender, only through letting go, that you unlock the strength within you to rise higher than you ever thought possible. You are not just surviving this life, you are thriving. You are not a passive observer waiting for things to happen. You are an active participant in your own transformation. The moment you decide to trust the process, to let go of the illusion of control, is the moment everything starts working for you instead of against you. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens with you when you surrender your doubts, fears, and insecurities. When you surrender your need for certainty, you make space for possibility. And possibility is the birthplace of greatness. Understand this: greatness isn't a destination, it's a mindset. It's the constant awareness that you are capable of achieving extraordinary things. It's not about waiting for the right moment, but creating the right moment. It's not about waiting for everything to be perfect. It's about trusting that imperfection is part of your perfection. Let go of the idea that you need everything to be figured out, because the truth is that you're exactly where you need to be to step into your next level of greatness. The greatest achievers in history were not those who followed a perfect path, but those who were willing to pivot, to trust the discomfort of change, to embrace the unknown. Think of the greatest minds, the most revolutionary leaders. The world changes. They didn't wait for everything to be aligned. They didn't wait for the perfect moment. They made the moment perfect through action. They embraced the struggle, knowing it was shaping them into the person they needed to be. They surrendered their limited view of reality and allowed themselves to be moved by something bigger, something greater, something that was calling them forward. You are no different. Your destiny is unfolding right now, not because of your ability to control every step, but because of your willingness to let go, to trust the process, to surrender to the flow of life. The vision that has been planted in your heart is not there by accident. It is yours to fulfill. Your purpose has been whispering to you all along. And now it's time for you to listen. Trust that the same power that created the stars, the oceans, and the mountains is at work in your life, orchestrating every detail with precision and care. You are not alone in this. You are being led. Let me remind you, your breakthrough is not far off. It's on the other side of your surrender. It's waiting for you to let go of the limiting beliefs that have been holding you back. It's waiting for you to release your attachment to things that no longer serve you. Your breakthrough is waiting for you to stop chasing and start trusting. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that everything you have gone through has prepared you for what's next. Trust that the best is yet to come, and it's already in motion. When you stop resisting and start trusting, that's when the real magic happens. That's when you begin to tap into a flow that's unstoppable. You were born for this moment. The universe is conspiring in your favor. The doors that seem closed are about to swing wide open, not because you forced them, but because you chose to trust that what is meant for you will find its way to you. You are a magnet for blessings, and the more you surrender, the more you allow those blessings to pour into your life. Remember, success is not about being the loudest or the most aggressive. It's about being the one who can let go and trust the process. It's about being the one who chooses faith over fear, action over doubt, and surrender over struggle. Life is too short to live in resistance. Life is too short to fight against what's trying to flow into your life. Let go, trust the journey, and watch as the universe unfolds its magnificence right in front of you. This is your time. Step into it. You are not just surviving, you are thriving, and nothing can stop you now.